Barry, Kelly, welcome to noise11.com. Peppercreek Revival is about to drop an album, and we're quite excited about that. You'd be very excited about that because this has been a bit in the coming, hasn't it?
Yeah. 30 odd years.
I'd sort of time-stamped the track Falling, which was the first we got to hear from the album about a year ago. Now, you do realise that there were people who weren't even pregnant when that song came out that have had the baby already.
That's very true.
I hadn't thought of that.
No.
But okay.
All right.
Also, Paul, the actual name Peppercreek never eventuated till basically out last August. So the band had been playing beforehand. So under various names. So yeah. So there was a different. There has been a lot of time in between.
Well, it's a relatively short story, isn't it? Because, when you all got together, I think it would have been about 2022, so we're only talking 2 years ago. But you all are award-winning musicians. So this is somewhat of a Melbourne blues supergroup, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, okay.
So we've all been around the block a few times. But it's interesting bringing this band together. We didn't quite know what the end outcome was going to be, so that was even more exciting for all of us. So because all of us are roots based, that's our background. So, but different roots. I mean, Roland Cashmere, he's got a country background. And Kelly's, all of us have got a roots background, but yeah, we were sort of going, we're not quite sure where this is going to end up.
No, the songs happened as opposed to us saying, well, we're going to write a blues album. Barry brought some music, I had some lyrics, we glued them together. The songs was very organic. So what you've got on the album there is what we created, and Falling's an older song of mine. So we weren't going out of our way to make any particular style of music. We let it come to us in a way, and what is the result is what you've got in your hand there.
When we use the term blues and roots, that is a term that, was used quite a bit, but seems to have been put onto the shelf, and somewhere along the line they've taken out the word Americana. And that has become the word we use now. Is Americana and blues and roots interchangeable?
We wanted to use Melbourne, because it's we really want to take that American thing out of the. But unfortunately, that's the worldwide term, and we would probably fit into that category for sure.
Because we are folky blues roots. Rock style songs. Yeah. That's what you're getting. Americana's from a particular place, isn't it? In a way, it's a style too.
Yeah, but I guess because of ostentatious, the term Australiana is kind of tarnished, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like that. That.
We did decide not to go with that, but I don't know. It's really, whenever you make something original, you've always got to think where it fits in the bigger picture. But I don't know. I think Peppercreek Revival's a unique unit. When you add together all the players that we've got and the different work we've all done over the years, it's a unique thing.
Let's get into talking about the debut album, the self-titled debut album, with a very diverse group of songs. The 9 songs that are on the album: Sunshine in My Pocket, Train I'm On, open the album with, like we're talking about the Americana sound there. They would fit kindly into that category. But, then we go to a completely different sound on I'm Dreaming on track number 3, which, hovers more towards a traditional pop contemporary sound. Is that a reflection of the different songwriters in the band, that you do have this diversity and it becomes this melting pot of sounds when we listen to the record?
But also Train I'm On was written with myself and Boris Connolly, who I worked with in my previous band, piano player. Sunshine in My Pocket was one Barry brought into a songwriting session. And then the next week he brought in I'm Dreaming. So they're very different songs. And we jam them out and see what happens, basically. So, yeah, I don't know. When I listen to an album, I like surprises. I don't want to hear the same song 12 times. And I that's what we've done, is we've got an album full of surprises. The thing that glues them all together is the players and the approach of how the guys play and my singing style. And so it's given me an opportunity to sing differently, because you tune in differently when you're singing with guitars or pianos. So it's been a real adventure for me, and I like variety. It's the spice of life.
But also, Paul, with I'm Dreaming, that started as a completely different song. And it was one of those magic moments in the studio. It just took its own life. The second take of it in the studio, well, the first take wasn't anything like what we'd rehearsed. But we actually, it just morphed into something in the studio that it came out of nowhere. It wasn't meant. Kelly had the word. Kelly didn't quite have words at that point, but we'd sort of it actually come together, and it was one of those magic moments, as I said, and it's just sort of like, wow! It was sort of like, really, and we just went with it, and that was like that background, that take on that. That's just a second take in the studio. That's live, and there was something magic happened that day. You know, Kelly had heard the take. She went back home, wrote the words to what we just put down, and then there was that shimmering guitar sound that I wanted, because it was about dreaming, and all of a sudden it morphed into something bigger than us guys. So it was that was quite an exciting moment for us. So yeah,
it's not lyrically a song a young person can write. It's a song lyrically that comes from experience of life, isn't it?
I think it's a song that comes from anyone who has ever been in love, you know, and had that holiday or that honeymoon with someone. So I don't know. I don't know if it's an age thing or just the depth of someone's love. Falling's the same. It's in the same sort of category lyrically. So yeah,
we get a sense of that experience in So Close. Is that your song, Kelly?
Yeah. All the lyrics on the album are mine. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that, again, we're talking about life experience, aren't we? We're not talking about a song that could be written by an 18-year-old.
No. So Close is about the experience of wanting something, not being able to have it, the unrequited affections and so on. So yeah, it probably does relate to someone who's lived a bit. Yeah.
And you obviously take a lot of your experience and put it into the songs. You know, you are a teacher by trade. Through the Storm sort of crosses over the occupation of teaching and what you're doing here.
Yeah. Totally. That Through the Storm was for all the young people that I've worked with over the years, who the ones who sort of slipped through the cracks in the education system, if you like, the ones who didn't feel like they fitted in, and it's about the tenacity and the strength of those young people and their capacity to pull themselves out of something that's really very harsh and make fresh new lives for themselves. Yeah, I really admire those young people. Incredible. And that did come out from teaching and being around them and hearing their stories, how they'd experienced life and so on.
It feels like certain songs can be clustered together and are so close on the album, and B Grade Movie probably sort of have a common sound between them.
Yeah.
If I'm not reading too much into that.
But yeah,
You're right. They're the more rocky kind of styles.
yeah, but also you can see the different styles of the guitar players in the band, because it is a guitar band. I mean, and it was boogies are quite up our alley. That's part of our life. But then once you start adding so close, and then the B Grade Movie actually started as a Brian Fraser's a riff. And that grew out of something that he brought to the table. So but then, yes, those styles is probably the more older style, bluesy style. I don't know.
It's very fantastic music. That's what I know. If each of the songs inspire me in a different way, I know that we're on to something good. I just need to know that the next track's going to offer me something new again. Oh, and here's another sound. Here's another kind of melody. And we're going folky now. Oh, okay. I like that. It's an adventure.
The track Falling that we spoke about earlier on, the one that was the first child off the album, I'm Dreaming being the second. Well, you got two kids now, I'm Dreaming and Falling. Go back to Falling. That was the song that came out in 2023. Was everything on this album written at that time, but Falling was released?
No, Falling is a song that was on a previous album that I released called Falling for You. And it was written with a friend of mine, Linda O'Brien, piano player, and Rick Kent, drummer from The Vibrants, who was my manager in Queensland for quite a few years. So the three of us, Linda and I wrote it, and then Rick came in and added his bit of magic. So that song is from 2013.
Oh, wow. So what prompted you to go that far back into the vault and resurrect that song?
Now, that was an interesting. That's where our transformation of the band. We actually, when Kelly joined the band, we thought, well, what's our basis? We're going to start the band. The band. So Kelly already had a basis of songs in her back catalogue. Then Kelly and I said, now, which songs would fit well with this combination? And Falling, because the lap steel on there, and it was a different version because I think it was a country type Falling. So it's sort of country, but so let's try that. So Falling was probably our start of working on the originals, and we're working on Kelly's originals. And that was always the basis of this band, was always going to be originals, and then we'd build up covers to fill a couple of holes in a live show. So, and Kelly having the catalogue there, and how that would mix with the band, I think that's how we started our sound. And Falling was one of our originals that was done on our first effort in the studio, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it was.
And our first demo that we did, and that's where that come from, and that's why that was released last year. So, and way before this album wasn't even thought of, Paul. Even then, and we was only just testing the waters. And it was only early this year that Kelly and I decided, hey, let's do a full-blown album. That the songwriting started this year. So most of those others were written in the last 6 months.
Yeah.
So and then I think 3 or 4 of them were only written 2 or 3 weeks before we went in the studio.
That's right.
So it was all that sort of like that evolution, putting it all together.
Let's get on to another track.
So we let it drive us as much as anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm. Uh, let's get on to another track off the album. They Say It Don't Snow Hard in Memphis. And I did actually Google this just to find out how hard does it snow in Memphis, and the answer came back not very often. So
This is right.
So the fact that you had members of the band that were in Memphis at a time where the weather was absolutely horrid is a very rare occurrence. This song is lucky to exist, because had they arrived in any other week, you would never have known this.
Well, all of the words in They Say It Don't Snow Hard in Memphis are true to form. It's exactly what happened. We arrived and people were saying to us, don't snow hard in Memphis. And we're going, wait a minute, it's -13 and we're up to our knees in snow.
Yeah.
So it was an unforeseen event, if you like. And as we were coming into land, there's snow everywhere. Why? So after we'd done our part in the competition, we went to Sun Studio on the Sunday afternoon and they did a tour through, and lovely Daniel, who was talking to us and explaining everything to us and so on, he said, oh yes, and we still do recordings here at the studio. And I went, oh really? So after the tour I said to him, so you do recordings, would you do one tonight? And he said, I'll ring the engineer. He rang the engineer and then came back and said, engineer says yes, be here at 7. So we went in and we took Bill Barber, because he was one of the young crew who were over there. And we had a great experience in Sun Studio, just putting this song together. And then we never released it. And then when this band was happening, I said to Barry, what about They Say It Don't Snow Hard in Memphis? Because it doesn't. So it's really a weather forecast, that song. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And that's one's written with Nick, who's the drummer in this band, Nick Caraffa, and Boris Connolly and Max McIntosh from Kelly's Blues.
Tell me about recording in Sun Studios.
We were hysterical. Max in particular, the bass player was particularly hysterical. I kept saying to him, where are we, Max? And he'd go, Sun Studio. Yeah. So we checked out the history and all the equipment and stuff. It's really quite incredible. Anyone who's going to Memphis, you've got to check out Sun Studio.
Let's get on to Lucky Fall. And this is quite literally about, a bit of luck that fell into your lap along the way.
-13 is a lucky fall. Yeah, well, it was -13 degrees, and we got into the semi-finals. So that's how Nick actually coined that phrase. -13 is a lucky fall, because we got into the semi-finals and it was snowing and it was -13, so we glued it all together.
It's great that every song on this album actually has its own little movie that could be made around it, doesn't it?
Very much so.
Yeah, I see lyrics as little films. Generally, I'll see a film of it before I can make the words happen. So I'm glad you said that, because I do think it's a very visual kind of album. It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Storytelling.
Yeah, and we wanted each song to have its own story, to tell us the story, and so everyone can take away something different from an album. From our album, and I'm sure that you're probably everyone's going to have their own versions of the album, and which is what with the theory that someone would like something on the album, and then hopefully like the other tracks. So so it's a story album. But I was when I was I said to Kelly many times, I want each song to sit on its own.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want it to sound like the one before. They must have their own, and that will be part of our Peppercreek Revival sound. It's going to be. We look at the song and make that, and especially when we play live, each song has its own sound.
Yeah.
So the band adapts. There's 8 or 10 guitars on the stage at any point to actually fill up those different sounds and scenarios that we've created, and people just sit there and look at us and go, really? So it's called entertainment too, Paul. We've got to entertain people as well. So
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. For me, one of the the biggest strength is the quality of the musicianship throughout. So that's what glues the songs together. They may be different vibes, but the musicianship carries the sound through the whole thing.
Well, we're up to the last track on the album. It's a track called Thank You, and I can't believe someone stood you up, Kelly. Do you want to go into the story, or is this just too heartbreaking?
It's a made-up story. It's not even so much about that. It's about, Thank You is about saying, you know, like through COVID, I had a list of names of friends that I would ring, someone every day. We had this phone tree thing happening so that we could all say, are you okay? How are you going? What are you doing? This is rather dull, and how are we coping? And Thank You is kind of about one of those friends who, and it's a duet between Nick and I, and Nick wrote the music for it, but it's the story of someone saying, thank you for being there when the wheels were falling off, really, and thank you for telling me the truth. Thank you for not making stuff up just to make me feel comfortable. So it's basically a song to someone who was really honest and open with you, and one of those really true, deep friendships. So yeah, I don't think I got stood up. Did I get stood up?
Well, you probably did.
Oh my God, I think I remember that. The really solid friendships, you know, the friend who you could ring at 1 a.m, or who would ring you at 1 a.m and say, wheels have fallen off, and you support each other through that. You know, for the lessons I've learned. I want to say thank you for the lessons I've learned, for the times when you truly listened. Yeah, it's about friendship.
You're a better person than me, because if any of my friends rang me at 1 o'clock in the morning, they wouldn't be my friends at 7 o'clock in the morning.
But COVID was extenuating circumstances too, wasn't it, really? Because we were all going, what? This is weird. None of us were used to that. So people found different ways to deal with it. And for me, it was making sure that I'd speak to my sons and my family and my friends and just stay connected, because we didn't know how long it was going to go on for. And that was what was really weird about it. It's like another week, another month. So yeah, people supporting one another.
All right, so you've got a few dates coming up. Brunswick is going to be a bit of a hotspot for the band, and George Lane St Kilda is also another favourite venue of mine. It's a great intimate venue to be performing in.
The Union Hotel in Brunswick is beautiful. We played there a while ago, so that's a return visit, which is great.
Yeah, it's great venue.
Yeah.
The band we're talking about here, Peppercreek Revival, with the self-titled album, and if you're in Melbourne, a whole stack of gigs coming up as well. So good to have you here at Noise 11.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much.